So imagine this for a second. You're playing as Wallachia. You're in a war against the Ottomans with your allies, and you find a 16k Ottoman stack. You take your combined 22k stack, engage with it on open terrain, you have equal tech, equal morale, and discipline. And you're dead. You may ask how, why, and why does the Ottoman sometimes feel unjustifiably overpowered early game? The Ottomans start in their ideas with 5% discipline. But that's not really the case here. That's not really the reason. Because, so does Wallachia, and no one complains about overpowered Wallachia. So the real reason is a little bit more hidden and a lot easier to work around once you understand how it works. Before we can talk about it though, we have to explain something that is tech ideas or technological groups. Your group is Eastern, not Eastern as in east of the world, more like Eastern European. The Ottomans have Anatolian ideas, and most of the Muslims have Muslim ideas, though I really don't understand how someone in Central Asia here has the same units as Morocco, but that's how the game works. If you notice, the Ottomans do have Anatolian, as we just said. Anatolian units are special. If you go and look at your units, you have two options. Sometimes you see this page, usually because you've upgraded tech and you get a notification telling you to select a new unit type. Those two, we have two units type that are unlocked by tech level 1. We have the offensive one and a defensive one. We have 2 pips, 2 points in offense and morale and offensive shock, while the other option is defensive morale and offensive morale. So this would be your tankier option. Let's contrast that with what the Ottoman have. No, wait, not this one. Yes, not here, Ottomans. So they have only one option, but that one option is basically better than yours. They have 2 offense and 1 defense. They have 50% more points than you do. So if you go full attack, they will be tankier than you. Your unit will not be able to kill them, and they will win. If you go full defense, they still have more points than you, so they will kill more units, more of your units, and they will win that way. And this is mostly equivalent to around 1 extra point on a general. So if you go here, we will notice another thing. The Ottomans have a lucky modifier. In the game, there are a few nations that have luck modifier, which is the AI, or if they're AI. If you are a player, you don't get it. This is usually given to Castile, France, England, Ottomans, sometimes Poland, and Austria. So the game have decided those players, those tags are supposed to be better. They're supposed to do well. So they give them. Part of that is they get better general and better rulers in case of the Ottomans. What this means is when you are combining better generals and better base damage, because each pip is this is base damage effectively, you are ending up with units that can punch up way above their weight. Another reason is that you can assign conscript janissaries, and you get units which they have 10% fire received, -10, and -10% fire shock damage received. So they have what is effectively close to 10% minus damage. So those units take 10% less damage from most sources, which makes them just tankiest. So you are stacking more base damage, more defensiveness, and more power. And that's more or less it. Now, this isn't static. It changes with the game. So if we go to Wallachia, and you will notice the second tech we unlocks at level 5. So level 5 you get Eastern Militia. It's a very balanced unit. You get 1 by 1 1 1. That's a very balanced type of unit. You have 1 in each category. What do the Ottoman get? Well, their unit are 1 1 1 2. They have an extra morale damage over you. Now, if you notice, that means that they are 25%. They have 25% more points than you do, which is bad, but that is a lot less than 50%. So if you notice, the moment you both survive to tech level 5, you have already shrunk the advantage the Ottoman have. Although by that point you have to notice that they will also have been expanding and you still have to deal with numbers. If you go, so what happens when you look at perhaps the late game? You have at tech 30, the very last unit you have 7, sorry, not 7, those are 3 by 3, 6, 6, you have 12, and 8, that's 20 points. So let's compare that to something like Wallachia, that is Eastern European. You will notice that you have 4 by 3, 7, 7, 7, that's 21. What about something in the Western tech group? So this is Eastern European, this would be in... Let's look at England. Their unit in tech 30, as you can see, obviously the Western tech group gets the most love. They have the most options by far. But if you look here, you will see that is 7 by 7 by 8. So they get 14 by 8, that's 22 points. So in the very late game, the Western tech group have 22 base points for the units. The Eastern have 21 and the Ottomans have 20. So this, as the games progress on and on, the Ottomans not just balance out, they become even weaker. This is designed to emulate some sort of a historical accuracy, but you can always keep that in mind to understand how everything works. This is why late game Russians will always beat late game Ottomans despite having equal numbers, at least usually. If you want to know, generally speaking, the Western tech groups are the best one. They are not as strong in the early game, but they're, mid games and forward, they're usually the best ones, followed by the Eastern Europeans, followed by everyone else. The Ottomans is a special case. They're the best early game, they're the worst late game. If you have, there's also tend to be the Native Americans and what was it called? They are the West Africans and the East Africans. Those tend to also be pretty bad in the overall in the entire game, but it generally doesn't matter. The Ottomans is the only case where it's so big a difference that it actually can result in you just losing out because of it. So yeah, that's more or less why. So if you want to beat the Ottomans, either drown them with numbers to the point where it doesn't matter anymore and have a lot of morale, or you just wait out until after the mid game to start being able to beat them. One last tip is, on infantry at least, always pick the defensive option. It does not matter, there's a lot of very complex calculations here, but for infantry, it's almost always better to just pick defense. There's no real reason, it's just like a sleight of hand. So there are situations where more damage are better. Let's say, for example, you're France. Your first idea is free manpower. Your third idea is getting free morale. So you're incredibly tanky, and even if your soldiers die, it doesn't matter. In that case, sure, you can basically select the type of troops that have the highest damage, and you can get away with it. For everyone else, it generally is best to just go defensive on infantry. But for cavalry and for cannons, of course, always go full damage because they're not supposed to tank anything for you. That's it. Goodbye.